Hey everyone, and welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. I'm your host, Dr. Chem, and today we're going on a cinematic journey through the invisible technology that pretty much dictates our entire modern world, electrochemical energy storage. We're going to explore the whole spectrum, everything from the tiny batteries keeping medical implants ticking, right up to the massive systems powering our global grids. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our syllabus for today. We're going to cover 1. The basics of chemical power, 2. The lithium-ion revolution, 3. Risks and thermal runaway, 4. Supercapacitors, 5. Fuel cells, and finally 6. The future of storage. Section 1. Basics of chemical power. Let's start right at the foundation of our masterclass, understanding exactly how we store chemical energy and turn it into electricity. So if you look inside a standard primary or, non-rechargeable battery, like a zinc manganese dioxide cell, it might seem simple, but it's actually an absolute marvel of chemistry. You've got an anode made of zinc particles and a cathode molded from manganese dioxide, and they're physically separated by a fabric just to prevent a short circuit. When you turn on your device, like a flashlight, electrons are generated at the anode through the oxidation of metallic zinc. Those electrons flow through your device, doing the work, and arrive at the cathode where manganese ions are reduced. It's this beautiful one-way flow of electrons that literally gives us power. But engineers have to make a big choice in how they design these systems. On one hand, we have primary cells. Since they don't need the extra structural overhead to survive being recharged, they boast ultra-high energy densities. For example, lithium carbon monofluoride batteries can theoretically hit an insane 2119 watt-hours per kilogram. That is absolutely crucial for something like a biomedical implant, like a pacemaker, where you need a tiny battery to last for years and years. I mean, you certainly don't want to be plugging your heart into a wall outlet every night, right? On the flip side, we have secondary cells. These are rechargeable, which is a huge win for sustainability, but they are traditionally a bit heavier, and they suffer from capacity loss over time because of the stress and heat generated every time you charge and discharge them. And honestly, that choice between primary and secondary has massive real-world consequences. Take a look at this number. Roughly 15 billion. That is how many single-use primary batteries are thrown away globally every single year, and almost all of them just end up in landfills. To put that into perspective, the energy it takes to manufacture just one primary battery is about 50 times greater than the actual energy stored inside it. Between the heavy metals, the acids, and the alkalis they house, it's a pretty toxic environmental reality. Which naturally brings us to Section 2, the lithium-ion revolution. This is the reigning champion of the secondary cell market. And this brilliantly illustrates how it works. To describe this revolution, scientists actually coined playful terms like the rocking chair or shuttlecock mechanism. Unlike that one-way street of a disposable battery we just talked about, lithium ions reversibly intercalate. Basically, when you charge it, lithium ions pop out of the cathode's lattice, travel through the electrolyte, and tuck themselves neatly into the layered graphite anode. Then, when you discharge the battery, they swing right back and forth, charging and discharging just like a rocking chair. This elegant little mechanism was developed back in the 1970s and finally hit the commercial market, thanks to Sony in 1991. Its impact was so profound that it was awarded the 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Boasting a massive volumetric energy density ranging anywhere from 250 up to 842 watt-hours per liter, this is the exact chemistry powering your laptops, your phones, and electric cars. It packs a tremendous amount of energy into a very small space. But let's move to Section 3, risks and thermal runaway. Because packing all that incredible energy into a tiny space introduces the dramatic antagonist of our story. What happens when these powerful systems structurally fail under extreme heat? Well, we call this catastrophic failure thermal runaway. And crucially, recent research shows this can happen even without a physical internal short circuit. Under severe heat, a specific, hidden chemical sequence gets triggered. First, the cathode undergoes a phase transformation. It structurally collapses. That collapse forces the release of highly oxidative oxygen gas right inside the sealed battery. That oxygen then crosses over and reacts violently with the reductive lithiated anode, generating immense unstoppable heat. We call this process chemical crosstalk. Now, what's really interesting about this data is seeing exactly when it happens. You can see the oxygen release spiking, which directly correlates to a tremendous heat generation spike centered right at 274.2 degrees Celsius. At that exact moment, the heat flow hits an astonishing 87.8 watts per gram. It's essentially a self-accelerating chain reaction that completely consumes the battery from the inside out. There's just no stopping it once it starts. Which leads us to section 4, supercapacitors. Since chemical reactions bring massive energy, but also massive thermal risks, let's pivot away from chemical storage entirely. Enter the supercapacitor or ultracapacitor. These are the electrostatic sprinters of the energy world. Unlike a battery, which stores energy indirectly through chemistry, a supercapacitor stores charges electrostatically. It relies on an electrical double layer where oppositely polarized ions just sort of gather at the electrode surfaces, separated only by unbelievably thin Helmholtz layers. Because there are no sluggish Faradaic chemical reactions to wait for, no ions slowly wedging themselves into crystal lattices, these devices can absorb and deliver power at absolute lightning speeds. To really grasp this, check out this Ragone chart. It maps energy density, basically how far you can go, against power density, how fast you can get there. Notice exactly where supercapacitors sit. They are way out on the right for specific power, but super low on the vertical axis for specific energy. In transportation terms, a supercapacitor gives you unmatched, neck-snapping acceleration, but you'll probably run out of juice before you even leave your neighborhood. They are purely designed for massive bursts of power. But here is the real kicker. Because there is no chemical degradation, no phase changes or crystal lattices expanding and tearing the electrodes apart, supercapacitors boast a simply staggering lifespan. We are talking over 1 million load cycles. Plus, without those complex chemical temperature dependencies, they can operate anywhere from a freezing -40 degrees to a scorching 85 degrees Celsius. Next up, section 5, fuel cells. If supercapacitors are the sprinters of our power spectrum, fuel cells are the marathon runners. These devices don't just store energy, they continuously convert it for as long as you supply the fuel. So the crucial point is that fuel cells are entirely categorized by the electrolyte they use, and that choice dictates how hot they run. For example, polymer electrolyte membrane or PEM cells use a solid polymer, operate at a relatively low 80 degrees Celsius, and start up really quickly, making them absolutely perfect for cars and buses. But look further down the list. Solid oxide fuel cells use a hard ceramic electrolyte and run at a blistering 1,000 degrees Celsius. That intense heat allows them to internally reform their own fuels and tolerate impurities, turning them into highly efficient powerhouses for massive, utility-scale power plants. Finally, Section 6, the future of storage. We've covered a lot of ground today, so let's look at how the industry is synthesizing all these concepts to build the future. First off, engineers are directly targeting that terrifying thermal runaway risk of lithium-ion batteries by developing solid-state batteries. By swapping out the highly volatile, flammable liquid electrolyte with a non-flammable solid one, they literally eliminate the primary fuel for those massive heat spikes we saw earlier. These solid structures also physically block the formation of lithium dendrites, allowing for exceptional stability. We're talking a cycle life exceeding 1,900 charge cycles, even at hot temperatures like 60 degrees Celsius without significant degradation. Let's move to and see how this builds into an entirely new architecture, hybrid energy storage systems, or HESS. Because the truth is, we don't have to choose just one technology. By pairing the deep energy reserves of advanced lithium-ion batteries with the instant million-cycle burst power of supercapacitors, we can create a system that perfectly balances long-term capacity with an immediate high-load response. And as a bonus, this hybrid approach actually extends the overall lifespan of the battery itself. From the humble, single-use zinc battery to 1,000-degree solid oxide fuel cells and million-cycle supercapacitors, the spectrum of power is vast and, honestly, incredibly nuanced. It's like a giant puzzle. As our global demand for clean, immediate, and safe power continues to explode, the big question remains: which intricate combination of these remarkable technologies will ultimately power the future of our transportation, our medical devices, and our global grid? Think about that for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Chem, on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.